My pregnant sister-in-law is at high risk for thrombosis. The doctor requires her to receive anticoagulant injections on schedule. My mother is worried that the medication might harm the fetus and advises my sister-in-law to stop taking it. I emphasize the dangers of discontinuing the medication and insist that my sister-in-law continue with the treatment. My sister-in-law gave birth to a baby boy, but it was discovered that the infant had severe jaundice and needed to be placed in an incubator. My mother blamed my sister-in-law day and night, saying it was because of the medication she took during pregnancy that the child was unwell. As a result, my sister-in-law fell into severe depression. I tried to comfort and console her, but with bloodshot eyes, she pushed me off a tall building in a fit of madness. You forced me to take the medicine, and now my child is suffering because of it. Opening my eyes again, my sister-in-law asked if I wanted to get an anticoagulant injection. I smiled faintly and showed her my mental health evaluation report. Let's go crazy together. You can't use medication, it will definitely harm the child. As a mother, you must always think more about your child. The doctors at the hospital are just trying to scam you for money. They can't be trusted. My mother's voice drifted through the room. My brother was sitting on the sofa playing video games. As if this matter had nothing to do with him, my sister-in-law held a syringe in her hand. Her face filled with hesitation and uncertainty. Jingjing, you're well educated and have read a lot. Do you think I should use this anticoagulant medication? I stared blankly at everything happening before me. It took me a while to realize that I had been reborn, back to when my sister-in-law was first diagnosed with high-risk thrombosis. The pain from falling from a high-rise building had yet to fade from my body. This time, I learned my lesson. I would never interfere in someone else's life again. I smiled slightly and said to my sister-in-law, "It's up to you. I can't be responsible for your life or the child's." My sister-in-law pursed her lips, then her eyes grew resolute. She threw the anticoagulant medication in her hand into the trash can. "Then let's not use it. I am the mother. I must think of my child, as long as the child is well. What do I have to fear from enduring a little risk?" Upon hearing my sister-in-law's words, my mother beamed with joy. She quickly brought a bowl of chicken soup over to my sister-in-law. "All medicine is somewhat toxic, only dietary therapy is the true cure. Drink this chicken soup, and I'll get you a turtle to stew into soup later. Oh, by the way, there are newly bought spare ribs in the fridge. I'll braise them for you in a bit." Sister-in-law took the chicken soup. A pair of eyes fell upon the layers of butter floating in the soup. She blew the butter away. My mother's voice rang out again. "Don't blow it away, you need to drink the butter too. The nutrients are all in the oil. The essence of an old hen is in this bowl of soup." Watching as my sister-in-law drank that bowl of soup, which was covered in a layer of oil, I merely curled my lips slightly and quietly returned to my room. The doctor clearly said she needs anticoagulant injections, but my sister-in-law refuses to get them. The doctor also clearly said she needs to control oil, salt, and fat intake, but my sister-in-law just won't listen to advice. What can I possibly do about it? Let those fats and purines seep into my sister-in-law's bone marrow then. Let the risk of thrombosis for sister-in-law increase once again. What does that have to do with me? A pot of chicken soup, 1 bowl for sister-in-law, 1 bowl for mother, the remaining half pot is all for brother. I smelled the chicken soup and ate the leftover white steamed buns from lunch, which counted as a dinner. Hearing the sound of bowls and chopsticks being placed in the sink outside, my mother called me out of the room at just the right moment. "I don't know what you're doing holed up in your room all day. Your sister-in-law has already finished off the chicken soup. Your sister-in-law may look small, but her appetite is even bigger than your brother's." "All right, my hands hurt, you wash the dishes." With that, I finished. My mom then left the kitchen. She was still holding 2 plates of fresh strawberries and cherries. She brought them over to my brother and sister-in-law. She said kindly to my brother and sister-in-law, "Eat them while they're fresh. I'll go buy more when you're done." My sister-in-law expressed her gratitude to my mom. My brother was used to being served like this by my mom. My mom picked through the plate, selected a small strawberry, walked back into the kitchen, and stuffed it into my mouth. "Judging by your sister-in-law's enthusiasm, she'll definitely finish all those strawberries. I doubt they'll last until you're done washing them. Don't say your mom doesn't care about you. I saved 2 for you to taste." Strawberries these days are so expensive for some reason. Each one costs about 4 or 5 yuan. In my previous life, she often does this, clearly favoring my brother and his wife, yet always trying to win me over with her words, and I always felt sorry for her. Knowing how hard it was for her to raise my brother and me all by herself, I tried to help her share the burden whenever I could, but in the end, I was pushed off a high-rise by my sister-in-law. She was the first to step forward and give false testimony to the police, absolving my sister-in-law of blame. It was also her idea to demand compensation from the hospital, even going so far as to display my body at the hospital entrance for public viewing, to increase social pressure, and it was her fearing my vengeful spirit, who specifically hired a sorcerer to suppress me in a dry well, wishing me eternal damnation. This is my own mother, more vicious than a stepmother. I calmly took the strawberry out of my mouth and threw it into the trash can. My mother frowned. What are you doing? I said expressionlessly. Allergic, my mother sneered. What a cheap life, allergic to strawberries, of all things. I didn't respond. She continued, all right, hurry up and wash the dishes. Then transfer this month's salary to my card. I won't make a special trip to the bank later. Show me how to use that mobile banking app, so I won't have to remind you every month from now on. I still said nothing. My mother couldn't be bothered with me either and went back out to sit with my brother and sister-in-law. Behind me, their family was laughing and chatting happily. In front of me, a pile of grease and kitchen waste. I took a deep breath and smeared the grease from the dinner plate onto the refrigerator. This refrigerator, I bought it. I then poured out the oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar, splashing them all over the clean, polished floor. This floor, I mopped it this morning. I also found an unopened bottle of peanut oil and splashed it on the range hood. On the clean walls, this kitchen has never served me, so why should I keep it so clean? I made a mess of the kitchen, washed my hands, and calmly walked out. Then, I burst into laughter toward the family who had already finished the cherries and strawberries. The three of them were left bewildered. Brother, Jingjing, what's going on? Mom, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Sister-in-law, why are you so happy? Did you win the lottery? Covering my mouth, I smiled. Picked up the teacup on the table, and threw it toward the television. I was afraid that with just one hit, the TV wouldn't be completely destroyed. I grabbed whatever was on the coffee table and threw it all out, until the TV started smoking. Only then did I stop. My mom and my brother instantly caught on and started cursing out loud. Xia Jingjing, are you crazy? I'm going to beat you to death, you good for nothing. How expensive is this TV? You actually smashed it. Xia Jingjing, pay up. If you don't pay, we won't let this go. Don't blame me for dragging you to the police station. Seeing my mom about to come over and hit me, I conveniently fainted on the spot. Before I fell, the medical report in my pocket also dropped to the ground. Xia Jingjing, playing dead won't work. You have to explain to me today why you're acting crazy. My mom and brother were still angry without knowing why. It was my observant sister-in-law who picked up my report. Just as my mom and brother were about to start hitting and kicking me, my sister-in-law shouted, "Oh my God, Jingjing is sick, and it's a mental illness. In my previous life, my mom pretended to be delicate, weak, and pitiful, keep me in this house as a nanny. My brother pretends to be ignorant, pretends to be clueless, make me pay for this family. My sister-in-law pretends to be melancholic, pretends to be gloomy, forcing me to bear her negative emotions. In this life, I have learned this trick too. I'm going to pretend to be mentally ill. I won't do any household chores anymore. It will also increase the household chores in this home. I want them to know what it means to offend a mentally ill person. Mentally ill? How is that possible? Jingjing is so smart, highly educated, and a high-income elite. How could she possibly be mentally ill? My mother was the first to stand up and deny what my sister-in-law said. My brother immediately chimed in, exactly. She's so full of life. How could she possibly have a mental illness? My sister-in-law directly handed the examination report with my name on it to my mom and brother. Is this report real or fake? It can't be. It seems Jingjing really has been diagnosed with a mental illness. I lay on the ground for a full half hour. Only then did my mom and my brother somewhat reluctantly accept the diagnosis on this medical report. My sister-in-law didn't forget to glance at the kitchen I had left in a complete mess, her face turning purple with anger. Mom, with Jingjing in this state, she definitely can't live with us anymore. Look at the kitchen, it's turned into a dump, and this TV cost nearly 10,000. My brother frowned and said, this illness shouldn't be anything serious, right? My mother also nodded and said, maybe it can be cured. Wan, don't worry too much. I'll take Jingjing to the hospital again tomorrow to have a look first. My sister-in-law quickly shook her head. It's all written here in black and white. What more is there to see? Mom, husband, we can't delay this. If Jingjing hurts me because of her mental illness, that's one thing. But what if she hurts the child? What would we do then? My sister-in-law had no idea how much I had sacrificed for this family. In her eyes, I was just someone who paid the utility bills, occasionally bought groceries, and cleaned up from time to time, but my mother and my brother knew the truth all too well. The household chores of this home are mine, the mortgage and living expenses of this home are paid by me, all the negative emotions and grievances of this home are poured onto me. Without me, these household chores, of course, my pregnant sister-in-law doesn't have to do. So it's only my mom and my brother who have to bear the burden, without me. The miscellaneous household expenses, of course, my pregnant sister-in-law doesn't have to bear, then I can only leave it to my mom, who has no pension, and my brother, who has little income. My sister-in-law wants to drive me out of this house with just one sentence, but my mom and brother have probably already calculated in their minds 1,000 times that kicking me out wouldn't be worth it. My mom and brother took turns comforting my sister-in-law. Jingjing is a girl, and I just can't feel at ease with her living outside. Don't worry just yet, let's go to the hospital and have another look. Maybe it can be cured, it might just be a minor illness. My sister-in-law wasn't soothed by my brother's and my mother's words. Instead, her temper flared up. I don't care, I was already uncomfortable living with an unmarried sister-in-law. Now Jingjing has this illness. You can't possibly plan to support Jingjing for the rest of your life, Xia Jiming. If you're going to prioritize your sister over me and our child, then let's get a divorce. There's nothing more to discuss. My mom and my brother tried to reason with my sister-in-law, all talking at once. No one even noticed that I had been lying on the floor for half an hour. I really couldn't bear the cold floor any longer, so I let out a couple of groans and struggled to get up. Mom, how did I end up lying on the floor? I called out weakly. The three of them finally turned their attention to me. My mother was the first to step forward, handing me the report and asking, Jingjing, is this true? A mental illness? I feigned panic, quickly reaching out to snatch the report from her hands. I shook my head in denial, saying, no, it's not. This isn't true. I don't have a mental illness. I wasn't fired. I didn't get lost. I remember everything. I can do anything. I can do it. I pretended to be mentally dazed. Feigning physical exhaustion and staggering as I walked, I knelt before my mother. Mom, the company doesn't want me anymore. I have nowhere to go. Please don't drive me away. I then turned to my brother. Brother, you care for me the most. You definitely won't abandon me, right? I even tugged at my sister-in-law's skirt. When she saw me approaching her, her face turned pale with fright. Sister-in-law, it's settled. After the baby is born, I'll help you take care of the child. I don't want any maternity nurse fees or nanny fees. Look, I graduated from a prestigious university, so I'll definitely be able to tutor my nephew well in the future. The three of them had different expressions on their faces. Clearly, they thought I was seriously ill. At that moment, I picked up the fruit knife that had fallen on the floor and smiled brightly at my sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, apples are good for your health. Let me peel one for you. I picked up an apple and sliced it into pieces, one cut at a time. The apple pieces fell to the ground and were trampled into a mushy mess. I carefully picked them up and handed them to my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law was so frightened her eyes went wide, afraid that I, holding a knife, might do something to her. Xia Jiming, your sister is going to kill someone. Help, Xia Jiming, help. My sister-in-law screamed. My mother grabbed my hair, and my brother tried to snatch the knife from my hand. My hair hurt so much from my mother's pulling. I screamed and shouted, it hurts, Mom, let go. I'm not crazy, I'm not sick, not at all. Seizing this moment of madness, I brandished the fruit knife wildly. I slashed my brother a few times, then I slashed my mother a few times. I saw the blood, saw my sister-in-law's body go stiff. I dropped the knife and started laughing foolishly, before the three of them could react. I returned to my room. The moment the door lock clicked shut, the three outside finally snapped back to reality. The one who reacted the most, naturally, was my sister-in-law. She absolutely refuses to let me continue living in this house. If she dares to pick up a knife today, tomorrow she'll dare to take an axe and chop our heads off while we're asleep. Yes, I admit my sister-in-law used to be very good to us, but now we have to weigh the pros and cons, don't we? If you want to take care of Xia Jingjing, that's fine, then I'll divorce Xia Jiming, and I'll just go and have the baby aborted myself. My sister-in-law's threat was quite effective. My mother and brother immediately compromised and began discussing how to arrange for me to live outside. My mother, that medical report is from 2 months ago. Just now, your sister said she was fired from her company. I'm afraid she doesn't have much money left. Should we still rent a place for her? My brother, there's no other way. If you just kick her out, she'll probably come knocking on our door every day and cause trouble for us. My mom couldn't bear to spend the money. Rent is so expensive these days. If we cover her rent, what about food and other expenses? Are we really going to support her for the rest of her life? My brother was upset. Why are you asking me? How would I know what to do? My sister-in-law said bluntly. Honestly, Mom, you've raised Jingjing all by yourself for so long, and you've done more than enough. Just because Xia Jingjing is sick now doesn't mean she should drag our whole family down. My mom sighed, but there's no way to just cut off the mother-child relationship, is there? My sister-in-law immediately said, why not? Just sign a mother-child relationship termination agreement, and it's legally recognized. After saying that, my sister-in-law immediately went online to search for a template of the agreement. Then she sent it to my brother and my mother to read, After reading it, both of them were left feeling disheartened. It seems the only option is to sever ties. Jingjing's condition appears to be intermittent. We'll have a proper talk with her once she returns to normal. Over the years, she has earned a salary of several 100,000 yuan. That money can be considered repayment for raising her. Now, it's best to settle things cleanly, as my mother spoke. She asked my sister-in-law to prepare the agreement. The next day, while my brother and his wife went out for breakfast, my mother knocked on my door. She brought a glass of milk and a packaged bread roll in her hand. She tentatively called my name. I lazily lifted the blanket, turned my head, and responded with, "Mom, get up and have something to eat. I have something to talk to you about." "Oh, okay." By the time I got up and sat down at the table, before I could even start drinking my milk or eating my bread, my mother handed me a document. "Jingjing, do you remember what happened last night?" "Last night? What happened last night?" I pretended to be clueless. My mother sighed softly. "You had an episode last night, hurting both me and your brother, and you really scared your sister-in-law." I was shocked. "What? I had an episode? That can't be." "The doctor said as long as I take my medicine properly, I won't have any crazy outbursts." No. "Mom, you believe I can get better, right?" I excitedly grabbed my mom's arm. It was also at this moment that I pretended to have just noticed the bold words written on the agreement and shouted out loud, "Severance of relationship agreement." "Mom, you want to sever ties with me?" My mom looked embarrassed. This was also forced by your sister-in-law." Your brother, and I really had no choice. If we don't sever ties with you, your sister-in-law will divorce your brother. And she even threatened to abort the baby in her belly." I said sadly, "Mom, are you and my brother afraid that I'll be a burden to you? Is that why you're being so cruel to me?" My mother tried to explain further. "Jingjing, I think what your sister-in-law said is quite right. In the future, when your little nephew is born, and with my poor health, I really don't have the extra capacity to support you anymore. You've been fired from the company and have no income. How are you going to afford medical treatment? Your mental state is unstable, and you can't really help out at home. Just look at the mess you made yesterday. I spent the whole night cleaning it up." "Jingjing, have a heart for your mom, and for your brother and sister-in-law too." Looking at the knife wound on my mom's arm, and the dark circles under her eyes, not only do I not feel sorry, but I actually feel a slight sense of vengeful satisfaction. I quietly watched my mother defend herself. No matter what she said, I just kept bringing up the mother-daughter bond and the sibling bond. I talked about all the sacrifices I had made for my brother over the years. I talked about all the sacrifices I had made for my mother over the years. Say all the suffering I endured over the years because of my brother and mother. I did my best with my sister-in-law's dowry, my brother's wedding house, and my mother's medical expenses. How come when it's my turn to get sick, you all want to abandon me? I cry over my own misfortune. I grieve over the lack of my mother's love. I'm sad that I don't have an older brother to spoil me." By the end, my mom was already annoyed and decided to just lay it all out. "Xia Jingjing, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. You have to sign this agreement with me now, whether you want to or not. All those years of your efforts were only what you owed me. I gave birth to you and raised you. How could you not be filial to me? Sign this now. Then pack your things and get out immediately. Don't make me chase you out with a broom." Holding the agreement, I looked at my mother and asked calmly, "Today, I'm sick, and my brother and sister-in-law can heartlessly kick me out. What if one day you get sick too? How will my brother and sister-in-law treat you then?" My mother choked up, her expression turning grim, but she quickly retorted, "I've given so much for your brother, and he's filial. He would never abandon me." I sneered coldly. "I hope my brother can live up to Mom's expectations. That brother of mine, he always seems hesitant and indecisive. Whenever something happens, he shrinks back. Actually, the most selfish and self-serving, he always manages to find his own little clique. And without saying a word, he can secure the greatest benefits. Before he got married, he consistently sided with my mother, doing everything he could to exploit me. After he got married, he aligned himself with my sister-in-law, determined to curry favor at the expense of both me and my mother. He never needs to say much, nor does he need to do much. Just be a transparent person. Avoid taking on any responsibilities, and he can get everything he wants, this time. Driving me out seemed to be arranged by my sister-in-law and my mother, but in reality, he silently allowed it. Just like in my previous life, when my nephew was born with severe jaundice, my mother blamed my sister-in-law for using medication, leading to her severe depression throughout the entire process. He witnessed it all firsthand and did nothing. Later, my sister-in-law pushed me out of a high-rise building to my death. My mother covered up the crime for her. And my brother did nothing and said nothing, and in the end, all my savings are his, all my compensation is his too, thinking that soon, my sister-in-law will be in critical condition due to a blood clot. I wonder what choices my mother and brother will make then. I signed the severance agreement. Under the notary office's verification, the agreement was confirmed to be genuine and valid. When my mother and I left the notary office, each holding a copy of the agreement, my mother said to me expressionlessly, "Once you've found a place to live, give me the address, I'll mail all your belongings to you. Your sister-in-law is in a special condition right now and probably doesn't dare to see you, so don't go back." I tugged at the corner of my mouth and said, "No need, those things were all hand-me-downs from my sister-in-law that she didn't want anymore. I don't like them either. If Mom wants to throw them away, just go ahead." My mother curled her lip and said, "Fine, then that's settled. Don't contact us in the future either. If you die out there, it has nothing to do with us." I nodded. "All right, we won't contact each other for the rest of our lives." With that, I finished. My mother and I walked off in opposite directions. From today onward, I am completely free, but my mother, my brother, and my sister-in-law might not be so fortunate. I have indeed left my previous company, but it wasn't a dismissal, it was a voluntary resignation. Because from the moment I was reborn, I had been preparing to leave this home and this city. On the very night I received the mother-son severance agreement, I boarded a flight to a coastal city. I accepted a job at a publicly listed company, competitive salary with meals and accommodation provided, without annoying relatives. My life is free and peaceful. Eat whatever you want, drink whatever you want. No longer do I have to think about how many mouths are waiting for me to feed at home, or how many people are waiting for me to offer them advice. If it weren't for a call from the courier station owner, I would have almost forgotten about my mom, my brother, and my sister-in-law. Jing. Last month I delivered 361 packages to your home, including 10 large items, 105 medium items, and 246 small items. Large items cost 50 yuan each. Medium items 1 yuan each, and small items 0.5 yuan each. That adds up to 728 yuan. How would you like to transfer the money to me? Only then did I remember the verbal agreement I had made with the courier station owner before. When my brother and sister-in-law bought this house, they were particularly drawn to the school district associated with this community. Even though the neighborhood is old, run-down, and lacks an elevator, they still decided to settle here. As a result, even though the location is convenient, all packages for this community require an extra walk to the courier station across the street. My mother often suffers from back pain, making it inconvenient for her to carry packages up and down the stairs. My sister-in-law is pregnant, making it even more inconvenient for her to go up and down the stairs to fetch packages. The task of handling the packages then fell to my brother and me. I am usually busy with work. The courier station is not open when I leave in the morning, and it is already closed by the time I return in the evening. As for my brother, he is lazy and idle. A grown man unwilling to exert even a little effort, he even makes up various excuses to avoid going to the courier station. Things online are cheap and come in a wide variety. My mom, my sister-in-law, and my brother all love shopping online, buying things for the pregnant woman and for the kids. Seeing the packages from our family piling up like a mountain at the delivery station, the station owner kept calling to ask us to take them home. Feeling sorry for my mom and my sister-in-law, and unable to persuade my brother, I had to make an agreement with the station owner to deliver the packages to our home, paying him per item. I've been sending it for several months in a row. My mom, my brother, and my sister-in-law were all quite happy about it, and they never mentioned who should be paying for it. In the past, I thought we were family, so I took on the responsibility, but now, I've cut ties with them. I transferred over 700 yuan to the courier station owner and then cancelled the home delivery service. Also, regarding packages sent to this address, there is no need to contact me anymore. I immediately gave the courier station owner the phone numbers of my brother, my sister-in-law, and my mother. If they refuse to pick up their packages and it affects your business, don't hesitate to just return the items to the sender. The innkeeper kept nodding in agreement. Before long, the situation took a new turn. In the usually quiet owners group of the old, run-down neighborhood, someone publicly insulted my sister-in-law. When my sister-in-law was wronged, my brother and my mother naturally stood up for her, engaging in a heated argument with the person in the group chat. As the argument escalated, I finally pieced together the whole story. It turned out that my sister-in-law, my mother, and my brother were all unwilling to go up and down the stairs to fetch packages. My sister-in-law simply called to complain to the courier company. The courier company didn't indulge her, so she escalated the complaint to the Department of Commerce and Industry. The department then ordered the courier company to deliver packages directly to the door. The courier company responded that the neighborhood pathways were too narrow for delivery vehicles to pass through easily and asked my sister-in-law to be understanding. But behind my sister-in-law stood my unreasonable brother and my mother. Neither of them wanted to go through the trouble of fetching packages upstairs and downstairs, so they supported my sister-in-law in continuing to file complaints with the Market Supervision Administration. The courier company got so angry that they simply decided to go all out, teaming up with several other courier companies to have all their delivery personnel stop delivering to this old, run-down neighborhood for a while. Deliveries to this neighborhood came to a complete halt. All the residents in the neighborhood stopped receiving their packages. This angered the other residents in the neighborhood. This sparked the group chat war. Watching my mom, my brother, and my sister-in-law being attacked by everyone in the community, I quietly enjoyed the drama. You're pregnant, not saving humanity. What makes you think you can't go up and down the stairs to get your packages, and you two perfectly able-bodied people? What's the big deal about walking a few steps to get your packages? You've managed to stop all deliveries. The courier company explained that the narrow passage in our community makes it impossible for delivery vehicles to get through, with just a few cents per package. Is it really necessary to torment the courier like this? The whole family was relying on their daughter to leech off her, and now that she's run away, with no one left to exploit, they're dumping the problem on the entire community. You're just creating trouble. The arguments in the group chat weren't enough. Some people even came to my house to knock on the door and vent their frustration. My mom, my brother, and my sister-in-law are classic examples of being tough only at home. When faced with even the slightest aggression from outsiders, they don't dare to act out at all. The whole family feels anxious and fearful whenever they go out. In the end, they had no choice but to withdraw their complaint against the courier. Under the neighbors' pressure, my sister-in-law signed a promise not to complain about the courier company anymore, and only then did the courier service resume normal operations. The courier service has returned to normal. My mom's, my brother's, and my sister-in-law's packages are still sitting at the delivery station, with no one going to pick them up. No one is willing to put in the effort. No one was willing to pay for it. My brother bluntly stated that since he didn't buy the package, it wasn't his responsibility to pick it up. My sister-in-law was pregnant, and if anything happened to her while going up and down the stairs to get the package, what would we do? In the end, it was my mother who went to pick it up, large, medium, and small packages, until she developed a herniated disc, crying out in pain day and night. Plus, with all the household chores and miscellaneous tasks at home, my mom's back just couldn't take it anymore. My brother and sister-in-law were both cold to her, each colder than the other. They told her to go to the hospital by herself. They told her to cover her own medical expenses. She looked at the medical bills, her heart aching as tears fell. Even so, she would not think of her daughter's kindness, for her daughter was a lunatic, barely able to take care of herself. What if she contacted her daughter and got entangled with the mentally ill girl? Therefore, she could only turn to her son for help. But my son is a master at shirking responsibility. I don't know what my brother said to my sister-in-law in private, but every time my mother needed money for medical treatment, my sister-in-law would step forward with her pregnant belly, urging my mother to think more about the unborn child. The elderly love grandsons, so she had no choice but to cut back on her medication and reduce her treatment sessions to save some money. My back is killing me, but I can only manage to rub it myself. She comforts herself like coaxing a child, repeatedly telling herself that it won't hurt if she just rubs it a little, that it will pass if she just endures a little longer. She still thinks she's young, still thinks she's strong and vigorous. The money my sister-in-law saved by not taking anticoagulants, my brother spent it all on buying big fish and meat. He stews a chicken every day. He goes for a seafood buffet once a week. He enjoys a happy trip to a countryside farmhouse once a month. The three of us had food and drink, and happy days still outnumbered the difficult ones, especially my brother. My sister-in-law encouraged and praised him every day, making him feel like the head of the household and the best person in the world. My mother worked tirelessly, doing all the household chores without ever daring to raise her voice at my brother. My brother leaves early and returns late, spending every last penny of his 7,000 or 8,000 yuan each month. My mother said, since you don't need to spend money on medicine or injections, you should save a bit for your child's future. But my sister-in-law thinks money is meant to be spent. Besides, Mom, you must have some savings from all these years, and you'll surely give it to your son and grandchildren when the time comes. My mother quickly denied having any money. My sister-in-law didn't believe it. Don't lie to me. Your son said you're his biggest security. What my sister-in-law didn't know was that my brother's biggest security was my mother's exploitation of me. My mother and my sister-in-law were secretly competing, and my mother's resentment toward my sister-in-law grew stronger. Not even 2 months later, my sister-in-law started bleeding, and her legs swelled up like water bladders about to burst. My sister-in-law got scared and rushed to the hospital to see a doctor. The doctor found that my sister-in-law was at high risk of thrombosis and still prescribed anticoagulant medication and injections. My sister-in-law hesitated and struggled. My brother was also at a loss, until the doctor said that if things continued to develop this way, it might result in 2 lives being lost. My sister-in-law was afraid of death and ultimately had no choice but to agree to the medication. The medication had only been used for a few days. My sister-in-law still developed a blood clot and was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. The doctor, looking at the critically ill pregnant woman, found it strange and repeatedly asked my sister-in-law if she had taken the medication as prescribed. My sister-in-law said she had always followed the doctor's instructions and didn't understand why this had happened to her. In the end, it was only after the blood sample test showed no traces of medication that my mother confessed everything. It turned out that she had switched the medication after hearing that my sister-in-law was using anticoagulants. How could that medication be used? It would harm the child. I was the one who switched the medication. You doctors are just obsessed with making money. My wife is definitely fine. When I gave birth, I just squatted in the field and had the baby. Women these days are so delicate. She urged my brother not to sign the emergency consent form. My brother panicked. The doctor shouted loudly, making the old lady realize that her daughter-in-law was already in the emergency operating room. She quickly came to her senses and told the doctor to save the child, not the mother, and to perform a cesarean section immediately to deliver the baby. She also told my sister-in-law to rest in peace, promising that she would raise her grandson well. My sister-in-law, lying on the operating table, was so enraged by my mother's words that her chest heaved violently, but she forced herself to hold on and refused to give up. The child was successfully delivered but had severe jaundice and was placed in an incubator, whereas my sister-in-law, a blood clot reached her lungs, so she can only lie in bed with tubes inserted. Her mind is clear, but her body can no longer move. The high medical expenses really hurt my mother. You have to understand, she's the kind of person who hesitates for a long time before buying a box of painkillers. How could she willingly spend tens of thousands a day to keep her daughter-in-law alive? Right in front of my sister-in-law, my mother and my brother discussed pulling the oxygen tube. My brother and my sister-in-law still had feelings for each other, so at first, my brother firmly disagreed. However, after my mother's persuasion, my brother broke down in tears again. In the end, when my mother reached out to pull the oxygen tube, my brother didn't stop her. He just silently walked outside, not wanting to be resented by his wife. Fortunately, the doctors and nurses witnessed my mother's murderous intent, which is why my sister-in-law survived. Not only did she survive, she was even able to speak. As soon as she opened her mouth, she accused my mother of trying to kill her, calling her a murderer. Perhaps it was a strong will to survive. Although my sister-in-law is paralyzed from the waist down, her mouth never stops talking from morning till night. My brother and my mother, fearing that my sister-in-law might say too many things she shouldn't, brought her home along with the baby as soon as the child was well enough to leave the incubator. My sister-in-law asked a nurse to call the police for her, to have the police install surveillance at home for her, in case my brother and my mother might kill her. This burden, when the police arrived at home, it was naturally impossible to install surveillance for my sister-in-law, but to reassure her, they still said a few words to the neighbors, asking them to check on my sister-in-law from time to time. The neighbors agreed to the police's request as if watching a joke. He really only comes by occasionally to take a look. It's more like keeping an eye on my mom and brother to make sure they don't do anything out of line to my sister-in-law. A newborn baby is incredibly difficult to take care of, and nagging, bedridden shrew is even harder to deal with. Here, the little one is pooping and peeing, while the older one is also making a mess with their waste. My brother definitely wouldn't get involved in these matters. My mother took on all the tasks: washing clothes, cooking, cleaning, taking care of 2 immobile individuals, and even picking up packages for her daughter-in-law, son, and grandson. Her back was almost broken, but her son wouldn't take her to the hospital for treatment. She understood that her son worked hard to earn money, so she just endured it. She just kept enduring it. That old back finally gave out on the day she carried my brother's new game console up the stairs to bring it home. She lay on the staircase for a long, long time. Winter in the South. A cold night. If no one had found her, she might have frozen to death that night, and from that day on, my mother also became paralyzed, unable to move from the neck down. From then on, my brother had to face 3 family members who were too weak to care for themselves. When I heard about the changes in my family from the innkeeper, I thought to myself that my brother would finally grow up this time. It's time for him to take on his responsibilities, but what we didn't expect was, your brother sold the house. We thought he wanted to move to a lower floor to make it easier for your mom, your sister-in-law, and your nephew to get around. He did end up renting a small apartment on a lower floor and even hired a nanny to take care of the family. We never imagined that your brother wouldn't even endure a single day of hardship. He left the 3 family members with the nanny and ran off on his own. The nanny worked tirelessly for a month, tormented by your mother and sister-in-law to the point of exhaustion, and in the end, she couldn't even get paid by her employer. No matter how hard the nanny tried to track him down, she couldn't find your brother. With no other choice, the nanny finally called the police and quickly fled. The police couldn't just let it slide, so they tracked your brother down and brought him back from Macau. Upon closer inquiry, it turns out all the money from selling the house was squandered by your brother on a life of debauchery. The police urged your brother to take on the responsibility of caring for his family members. On the surface, he agreed, but in reality, he continued to neglect them completely. It wasn't until the landlord came to collect the rent that it was discovered your brother had run off again. Your nephew, without a single piece of clothing on in the dead of winter, froze to death on the balcony. Your sister-in-law crawled on the floor searching for the child, hit her head, and also passed away. As for your mother, she lay on a bed piled with filth, surrounded by 2 corpses for over half a month. Your mother truly has a strong will to live, or perhaps she's just remarkably resilient. Even under such circumstances, she survived. An ordinary person would have either been disgusted to death or scared to death. By the time the police investigated the matter, my brother had already been persuaded by so-called friends to go to northern Myanmar. The police tried to intercept his illegal border crossing but failed. Not long after, my brother's body was sent back to the country. My mother, who was bedridden in the elderly welfare home, was so devastated by the news of my brother's death that she couldn't shed a single tear. Welfare homes vary in quality, and if you don't pay, the treatment for the elderly is very poor. My mother, all alone and pitiful in the welfare home, was treated like livestock, stripped of all dignity. It was actually my mother's former neighbor who, out of sympathy, went to visit her and tried to persuade her to contact me, but my mother just shook her head over and over. Even though she could barely string a sentence together, she managed to write down a line: "My daughter is mentally ill, she might kill someone, being with her. I'm afraid I'll die even sooner." The neighbor couldn't understand how I, who had seemed perfectly fine, could have developed a mental illness, but seeing my mother like that, I still told the police about my existence as her daughter. When the police contacted me, I didn't hesitate to show them the severance agreement I had signed back then. The police looked at the agreement and couldn't demand that I take responsibility for my mother, so the matter was dropped. Many years later, my mother fell seriously ill and was admitted to the hospital. A hospital is not a charity, all expenses must be paid. After some thought, I ultimately decided to go to the hospital and pay the bill. My mother, with tubes inserted, stared at me dressed in high-end designer clothes, her eyes nearly popping out of her head. You're not mentally ill." A person who hadn't spoken for many years opened their mouth out of shock. I calmly replied, "I have never had a mental illness. The previous examination report was just something I fabricated." Her dim eyes welled up with tears. "Why?" I smiled. "Of course, it was to escape from all of you." At that moment, the doctor came over and told me about my mother's physical condition. He said that in her condition, she could only survive with a tube inserted. The cost was very high, and he asked me if I wanted to continue. I asked my mother if she wanted to live. She was visibly moved, her eyes filled with gratitude. She nodded, indicating that she wanted to live. She felt that she had finally waited for my success and wanted to enjoy a life of comfort with me. "But, my mother, I no longer wish to spend a single penny on you." She watched helplessly as I signed the "Do Not Resuscitate" consent form. She heard with her own ears as I told the doctor not to give her painkillers to relieve her suffering. In the midst of struggle, in the midst of agony, my mother, with her big eyes wide open, passed away. I did not arrange any funeral for her. I simply let the hospital take her for research and dissection. My mother's death was like a small interlude in life, something that passed and was over. It had no impact whatsoever on my life. I still need to devote myself to my work, my life, my hobbies, and look forward to the future. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. Sarah's fingers trailed along the cold golden railing, the diamonds embedded in it refracting blinding light under the moonlight. This golden-roofed villa, which took 3 years to build, had every brick and tile transformed by her own hands, now a landmark coveted by the world's wealthiest. The sound of an engine cutting off rose from below. She looked down to see Mia stepping out of a battered second-hand van, the cuffs of her navy blue work pants stained with cement. Clutching a rusted wrench in her hand, the ultimate reward from her more work, more gains system at max level, said to boost work efficiency by 5%. "Big sister, still admiring your golden mountain?" Mia's voice drifted up 20 floors, hoarse like metal scraping against metal. She climbed the villa's gilded outer railings, the iron spikes on her work boots scratching the pure gold surface, leaving ugly gashes. Sarah frowned. In her past life, She'd always thought her sister's hardships were self-inflicted, but only now did she realize those scratches were like scars, long carved between them. Over time at the construction site today, Sarah stepped aside to let her in. The chandelier in the center of the living room, forged from 100 pounds of gold, was blinding, but Mia acted as if she didn't see it, heading straight to the water dispenser to gulp down half a bucket of cold water. The sound of her throat working was stark in the empty room. The more work, more gain system issued an emergency task. Haul 30 tons of steel bars for $500. She wiped her mouth, lips twisting into a mocking smile. Enough for Big Sister to buy the tiniest diamond, right? Sarah didn't respond. 20 years ago, on the day the systems bound to them, their mother had pushed 2 gift boxes toward them. Mia had cried, saying she wanted the one with the pink ribbon. So Sarah had let her have it. Only later did she learn the ribbon color meant nothing. Mia had tampered with the box, swapping the internal chip beforehand. All these years, Sarah had built a business empire with her turnstone to gold system, watching her sister start from delivering newspapers, scraping by sweeping streets, hauling bricks, and carrying cement to earn points, until she became the system-certified world's most efficient laborer, yet still couldn't afford a decent home. You know what? Mia suddenly spoke, spinning the wrench in her palm. Yesterday, the system gave me a hidden quest, kill you, and I inherit your system. Sarah whipped around to see her sister's bloodshot eyes, the mark of chronic overwork. I didn't want to believe it. Mia's voice trembled, but it said, everything you have now is supposed to be half mine. When the wrench swung toward her, Sarah didn't even have time to scream. Agony exploded from the back of her skull. Warm liquid trickling down her neck, dripping onto the Persian rug worth millions. She collapsed, watching Mia kneel beside her, hands slick with blood, her eyes not filled with the triumph of revenge but a dazed, crushed look. Why, didn't it say the quest was complete? Mia muttered, the wrench clattering to the floor. In the last fading seconds of consciousness, Sarah heard the familiar electronic voice in her mind, colder than ever. Host's vital signs plummeting. Turnstone to gold system unbinding, detecting strong lingering attachment from linked individual, initiating temporal rewind protocol. The sharp scent of disinfectant stung her nostrils as Sarah jolted awake, her vision filled with the sterile white ceiling of a hospital room. The digital calendar on the wall displayed June 18th, 20XX, her 18th birthday. Sarah's awake, her mother's voice, thick with tears, rang in her ears, turning her head. Sarah noticed the streaks of white at her mother's temples and suddenly remembered, this was the day she'd been pushed down the stairs by Mia over the last slice of cake, cracking her skull open. In her past life, she'd spent 3 days in the hospital, missing the critical moment when the system would bind, forced to watch as her sister tipped the gift box meant for her. Mom, I'm fine, she muttered, struggling to sit up as blood seeped through the bandage on her forehead. The door creaked open, and Mia walked in holding a cake box, her smile deliberate. Happy birthday, sis, I got you chocolate mousse. Sarah stared at her hands, still slender and unblemished, free of the calluses and scars from years of labor that would come later. The doctor says you can be discharged. Let's go home and cut the cake, her father said as he entered with their bags, exhaustion barely concealed in his voice. Sarah remembered, he'd just lost his job that day, and her mother's small diner had been shut down for failing a health inspection. Their family was at its lowest point. That was why, when 2 mysterious gift boxes arrived, they'd assumed it was aid from some distant relative. Back home, the living room light flickered weakly as her mother placed 2 identical boxes on the table, their pink ribbons glowing eerily in the dim light. No idea who sent these. There's no name, her mother said, rubbing her hands together, hope flickering in her eyes. Should we open them? Sarah's heart pounded. This was the moment. Last time, she'd let Mia choose first because of her dizziness, and her sister had instantly grabbed the left box, activating the alchemy system. The one on the right, left forgotten in a drawer, had turned out to be the activation card for the hard work pays off system, discovered half a year too late. You pick first, sis, Mia suddenly said, stepping aside with a knowing smirk. Sarah froze. Last time, her sister had been impatient. You're the elder sister, you should choose, Mia added, though her gaze remained locked on the left box. Just as Sarah reached out, Mia stumbled, or pretended to, lurching forward with a dramatic gasp. Oops, she cried, snatching the left box into her arms. Sorry, sis, I tripped. She tore open the wrapping, revealing a palm-sized metal case. The moment she pressed the button, a beam of golden light shot out, piercing her forehead. Alchemy system successfully bound, a cold electronic voice announced. Sarah's blood turned to ice. She watched Mia's barely contained glee before slowly opening the remaining box. Inside lay a yellowed card, for bold characters printed across it, hard work pays off. The more you work, The more you gain system has been successfully bound. Current level 1. The mechanical voice echoed in Sarah's mind as she crouched on the floor, picking up the shattered pieces of cake Mia had knocked over. The sticky cream clung to her fingers, yet she felt no warmth. Look, sis. Mia rushed toward her, holding up a glass. Tiny golden particles were slowly forming on its surface. I can really turn things into gold. She excitedly tapped the glass against the table, and the base immediately caved inward, revealing a gleaming golden interior. Their mother gasped, covering her mouth, while their father's eyes lit up with excitement. Only Sarah noticed the faint, eerie blue-black discoloration spreading across Mia's wrist where the golden light had flashed. Initial task issued: clean the living room. Reward: $5. The system's prompt sounded again. Sarah took a deep breath, grabbed a broom, and began sweeping. The crumbs mixed with cream stuck stubbornly to the floor, forcing her to kneel and scrub with a rag. Meanwhile, Mia was turning their family's enamel bowls into gold one by one, the clinking sounds grating on Sarah's nerves. Just sweeping the floor, and you're this slow? Mia's voice dripped with impatience as she shoved a golden bowl into their mother's hands. Mom, from now on, we'll eat from gold bowls. Their mother trembled as she held it. But, is this really okay? What if someone sees? What's there to be afraid of? Mia shrugged dismissively before suddenly grabbing Sarah's wrist. Look at your hands, sis, so dirty, you should really work harder. The moment Mia's fingers touched Sarah's skin, the system blared an alarm. Abnormal energy contact detected, activating defense mechanism. A sudden warmth spread across Sarah's hand, and when she looked down, a thin layer of callus had formed where Mia had touched her. What did you do? Mia yanked her hand back. Her own skin now reddened. Why does your hand feel like sandpaper? She took a few wary steps back before suddenly snatching a golden bowl from the table and bolting for the door. I'm going to the gold shop to see how much this is worth. Sarah watched her disappear down the hallway before returning to scrubbing the floor. When the last stain was finally gone, the system chimed. Task completed. Reward of $5 has been deposited. She opened the system panel. Her balance now showed $5, and the experience bar had inched forward by a barely noticeable sliver. A commotion erupted downstairs. Sarah ran out just in time to see Mia being shoved out of the gold shop, the golden bowl clattering to the ground with a dull thud. Where'd you get this fake gold, you little brat? Trying to scam me? The shop owner slammed the door shut, leaving Mia standing frozen, tears welling in her eyes as she stared at the now deformed bowl. What happened? Sarah approached. Picking up the bowl, the golden sheen was fading, revealing the original enamel beneath. It changed back. Mia's voice trembled. The system said the transformation was permanent. Sarah's fingers traced the rim of the bowl as the system warned. Unstable metal conversion detected. Contains illegal energy residue. Recommendation: avoid such objects. She looked up at Mia. Her sister's eyes were now shadowed, eerily mirroring the expression Sarah had seen on that rainy night 20 years later. The day after being kicked out of the jewelry store, Mia locked herself in her room all day. As evening fell, she suddenly burst out, dumping all the textbooks from her bag onto the table. Grabbing the math book, she pressed it against the wall. Change for me, she growled through gritted teeth, her fingertips glowing with a faint golden light. Sarah, who was helping their mother pick vegetables in the kitchen, heard a crisp crack from the living room. Turning around, she saw the math book had transformed into a solid gold lump, with the texture of its pages still clearly embedded in the metal. Are you out of your mind? Sarah rushed over. We still need this book. What's there to fear? Mia threw the gold bar onto the table with a dull thud. Once I sell this, I'll buy you 10 new ones. Her eyes gleamed with obsession as she grabbed the enamel mug from the table. In an instant, the cup transformed into an intricate golden vessel, still bearing the chipped edge from its previous life. Their mother watched in horror from the side. Mia, stop transforming things recklessly. What if someone finds out? And what if they do? Mia cut her off, snatching the golden cup and dashing outside. I'm going to try another gold shop right now. For the next 3 days, Mia was like a woman possessed. She turned the metal drawer of her desk into gold, only for it to jam in its tracks, earning her a public scolding from the teacher. She secretly replaced the plastic buttons on her school uniform with gold nuggets, which scattered like chocolate beans during PE class when she ran. The most absurd incident came when she transformed the family's iron wok into solid gold while her parents weren't looking. That evening, as her mother started cooking, the flames barely licked the bottom before the pan began glowing red and melting, splattering molten gold across the stovetop and burning holes through 2 tiles. What kind of monster is this? Father trembled with rage as he stared at the deformed golden pot. Mia, however, kicked the remnants of the pot carelessly and said, just buy another one, I've got plenty of money. But she soon discovered that the gold she conjured couldn't be spent, after visiting 5 different gold shops in a row. She was either chased out as a fraud or had the owners secretly call the police. On the afternoon of the fourth day, when 2 officers showed up at their door, Sarah was delivering freshly baked peach cookies to Grandma Zhang on the 3rd floor, a task assigned by the More Work, More Rewards system. Though the reward was only $2, it came with a +1 baking skill proficiency bonus. We've received reports that your child is in possession of gold items of unknown origin, the officer said, flashing his badge as Mia hastily hid a golden eraser under her pillow. Their mother rushed to explain, but Mia suddenly shrieked, "It's Sarah, she's jealous that I have a system and deliberately had someone report me." Sarah stood at the doorway, still holding the empty pastry box. As she watched her sister's flushed face, she suddenly remembered the scene from her past life when the police had taken Mia away. Only this time, it had happened much sooner. The officers found 3 oddly shaped gold nuggets under the bed, one of which was a solid gold math textbook still bearing the publisher's name. The evidence was undeniable. "Come with us to the station to give a statement." When the police tried to take Mia away, she clung desperately to the doorframe, refusing to budge. Her eyes, sharp as poison daggers, glared at Sarah. "I won't let you get away with this." In the end, it was only after her father emptied his pockets and borrowed from neighbors that they barely managed to settle the matter. The gold nugget was confiscated, supposedly to verify its origin, leaving the house completely broke. Sarah lay in bed, listening to her parents' muffled arguments in the next room, when the system suddenly popped up with a new task: part-time flyer distribution, daily pay, $50, reward, +0, 1 endurance attribute. She silently accepted. At least the $50 was something tangible she could get her hands on. Handing out flyers turned out to be harder than Sarah had imagined. The summer sun scorched the asphalt, yet few people took the flyers she offered. Some grabbed them only to toss them aside without a glance, others outright avoided her, and one elderly woman even scolded her. Young people these days, no sense of decency. Handing out this scammy trash. Host has completed 30% of flyer distribution. Hidden task triggered, collect litter from the ground, reward, 10 environmental points. The system's prompt chimed just as Sarah bent to pick up a discarded flyer. She decided to squat by the bus stop with her stack of flyers, immediately retrieving any that were thrown away. By noon, she'd somehow accumulated 200 points. Points can be exchanged for skills. Basic metal identification costs 1,000 points. Sarah froze for a moment. This skill didn't seem to fit the More Rewards system at all, but she didn't dwell on it and kept her head down, handing out flyers. By the end of the day, not only had she earned $50, but her endurance attribute had also increased to 1, 2. She'd walked all day and surprisingly didn't feel too tired. In the days that followed, Sarah packed her free time to the brim. Helping old men wind downstairs carry sacks of rice earned her a strength +0.3 reward from the system. Writing fire safety posters for the community granted her beginner calligraphy. On weekends, sorting plastic bottles at the recycling station rewarded her with mastery in waste classification. The recycling station owner, impressed by her efficiency, even paid her an extra $10 per hour, slowly pushing her savings into the triple digits. One day, while sorting old newspapers at the recycling station, her fingers suddenly brushed against something cold. Special metallic substance detected. Use identification skill. The system prompt popped up, and Sarah clicked confirm. A line of text immediately flashed in her mind. Meteorite fragment, containing rare metal iridium, estimated market value, approximately $5,000. Her heart skipped a beat. Without drawing attention, she picked up the dark brown fragment hidden among the scrap metal and quietly slipped it into her pocket. After work, she rushed straight to the city's planetarium and found Professor Lee, who specialized in meteorite research. The old man initially thought it was just a child's prank, but when he tested the fragment with his instruments, he suddenly grabbed Sarah's hand in excitement. "This is a carbonaceous chondrite. Where did you get this?" "I found it at the scrapyard," Sarah answered truthfully. Watching as Professor Lee promptly transferred $5,000, her palms were drenched in sweat. It was the first time in both her lifetimes that she had earned so much money through her own labor and luck. Ever since the police had given her trouble, Mia had become a complete outcast at school. No one wanted to talk to her, and even the girls who used to flock around her now avoided her like the plague. She directed all her resentment at Sarah, sneaking into the girls' restroom during lunch break and scrawling curses in gold glitter on the stall doors. "Sarah deserves to die a horrible death. The bitch who stole my system." A younger girl accidentally witnessed it and, terrified, immediately reported it to a teacher. By the time the dean arrived with Mia's parents to handle the situation, Sarah was watering the classroom plants, part of the system's Cultivate Life task, which rewarded her with plant care knowledge. She watched as Mia was dragged out by her mother. And the look in Mia's eyes as she glanced back already held the same madness from the previous life. Right before she swung the wrench, Mia secretly traded a gold ring she had hidden away for $2,000. Without telling her family, she pocketed the money and headed to the downtown mall, buying herself a dress studded with rhinestones and renting the latest model of smartphone. She began mimicking the flashy behavior of the rich kids she saw in TV dramas. She posted the restaurant location in the class group chat, along with a photo of 3 steaks laid out in front of her, captioned, "Eating alone feels a bit lonely," but hardly anyone responded, except for the class monitor who commented, "The steaks at that place are synthetic meat, you got scammed." Mia was so angry she almost threw her phone. She then posted another photo, this time of a gold bracelet on her wrist. Someone commented, "Saw that bracelet at the flea market last week, plastic. $10 for 3. She didn't know that the bracelet was indeed exchanged for gold with a street vendor, but the vendor took the gold and gave her a fake. To prove she was genuinely wealthy, Mia gritted her teeth and transformed her father's treasured purple clay teapot into a golden one, secretly selling it to a dealer at the antique market for $50,000. On the first day she got the money, she invited a few classmates who seemed well off to a high-end restaurant. But she ended up making a fool of herself. She didn't know the napkin was supposed to be placed on her lap, held the knife and fork backward, and even gulped down the red wine like it was soda, choking until her face turned red. Leo, the rich kid sitting across from her, couldn't help but laugh. "This isn't flaunting wealth, it's embarrassing yourself. What do you know?" Mia snapped, slamming a handful of gold beans onto the table from her bag. "This is enough to buy everything you're wearing." Leo's expression darkened instantly as he pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. "Know what this is? My dad's company's gold mine distribution map. Your little gold is just scrap to my family." Mia was left speechless, watching helplessly as Leo walked away with the others, leaving her alone to face a table full of untouched dishes and the probing gaze of the waitstaff. To make matters worse, she realized she couldn't afford the meal. The handful of golden beans had been discreetly confiscated by Leo's bodyguard, who claimed they were compensation for dirtying the restaurant's table. To salvage her pride, Mia set her sights on the stone lion sculptures at the school entrance, donated by alumni during the school's founding. They were said to be worth a fortune. Under the cover of night, she sneaked up to the sculptures and turned both lions into solid gold, then contacted black market buyers to haul them away. Unbeknownst to her, a surveillance camera hidden at the base of the sculptures captured her every move. The next morning, the entire school was in an uproar. News of the golden lions spread quickly, and when the police arrived with sniffer dogs to investigate, they immediately pulled the surveillance footage. The video clearly showed Mia's figure, even recording her chanting, "Change, change, change like a spell." This time, no one could protect her. The school not only expelled her but also demanded compensation for the original value of the sculptures. They were cultural artifacts, worth far more than their weight in gold. Her parents sold everything they could and borrowed money from every relative to scrape together the payment. Watching her mother wipe away tears in secret, Sarah quietly took out the $5,000 from the meteorite sale and handed it to her. "Mom, use this for now." Mother clutched the money, her hands trembling uncontrollably. "Sarah, it's our fault for not being capable enough." Sarah shook her head. She had just received a system notification, rewarded with parental affection plus 20 for alleviating the family's financial crisis. Seeing the renewed light in her mother's eyes, she suddenly felt this was more precious than any fortune in her past life. Meanwhile, Mia, confined to the house, stared at her increasingly sallow complexion in the mirror and felt fear for the first time. She realized she might no longer be able to control that damn system. By the 3rd week of Mia's confinement, a gold patch the size of a fingernail suddenly appeared on the back of her left hand. At first, she thought it was gold powder she had accidentally smeared, but no matter how hard she scrubbed with soap, it wouldn't wash off, and touching it sent a burning sting through her skin. It must be Sarah's doing. She locked herself in her room, gnashing her teeth at the patch in the mirror. These days, she hadn't dared to use the system recklessly, but the more she suppressed it, the darker her resentment grew. During dinner that evening, when Sarah placed a spare rib in their mother's bowl, Mia suddenly exploded like a firecracker. "Who are you pretending to be nice for? Are you thrilled to see me like this now that I'm down?" "I'm not." Sarah set down her chopsticks. "The doctor said your liver levels aren't great. You should eat less greasy food." "None of your business." Mia slammed her hand on the table, but before the golden glow at her fingertips could fully manifest, Sarah instinctively raised her arm to block it. The moment their hands collided, the cotton fabric at Sarah's cuff suddenly tightened with a rip sound, transforming into a shimmering golden fabric, while Mia screamed in pain. The golden patch on her hand, as if branded by a hot iron, instantly expanded to the size of a coin. System warning, unnatural energy conflict detected, retaliation mechanism triggered. The cold electronic voice echoed in Mia's mind for the first time with a warning tremor. Excessive use of material conversion function will result in energy erosion of the host's body. Sarah stared at her golden sleeve, then at her sister writhing on the floor clutching her hand, and suddenly recalled the words of the junkyard owner. Anything that comes too easily must be paid for. Silently, she peeled off the golden fabric. The system prompted, abnormal material X1 obtained, exchangeable for 50 points. Without hesitation, she clicked confirm. In the days that followed, Mia's condition worsened. She found herself utterly unable to control the system. Pages of books would suddenly turn into gold foil while flipping. Glass cups would melt into gold lumps in her hands, and most terrifying of all, that morning when she merely handed her mother a scarf, the woolen fabric stiffened into unyielding golden threads. Meanwhile, the golden patches on her hand had spread to her wrist, like rust growing beneath her skin. We must find a way to stop this. Her father took her to every hospital, but all the tests showed nothing unusual. The doctors simply dismissed it as a rare skin condition. Mia scoured the internet for information about system backlash and finally stumbled upon a post in an encrypted forum. Attention holders of the alchemy system, when converted materials exceed 100 kilograms, the living conversion permission will be triggered. Her eyes locked onto the words living conversion, and a wild idea took root in her mind. Meanwhile, Sarah's more work, more rewards system unlocked a new feature. While volunteering in her community, the system suddenly prompted. Team collaboration detected, social contribution module activated, current task, organize a charity sale for teenagers, goal to raise $5,000 in donations, reward, social reputation +10, random skill book X1. She gathered a few classmates and collected and used books and toys from everyone. Then, she contacted a recycling station owner for materials that could be repurposed, crafting them into handmade items. Sarah handled pricing and accounting, and with the help of the introduction to business negotiations skill rewarded by the system, she managed to sell a set of old comic books for half their original price. On the day of the charity sale, Mia secretly blended into the crowd. She watched as Sarah was surrounded by classmates laughing and chatting, as residents willingly bought those worthless trinkets, and as the volunteer certificate was solemnly handed to Sarah. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through the golden patches on the back of her hand. She clenched her fist abruptly, her nails digging deep into her palm. Why did Sarah get so much with that lousy system, while she, who possessed the power to turn stone into gold, had to suffer from these damned golden patches? On the way home, Sarah received a system notification. Total funds raised from the charity sale, $850. Mission accomplished beyond expectations. Reward has been issued. Skill book basic management obtained. She lowered her head to flip through the virtual skill book, unaware that not far behind her, Mia was staring at a stray cat by the roadside with an almost greedy look in her eyes. In the end, Mia took action against that stray cat. Late that night, when her parents and Sarah were sound asleep, she quietly slipped out of the house. The orange cat in the neighborhood flower bed was curled up in a cardboard box, dozing, holding her breath. She approached it, her hand trembling. The golden patches had already spread to her forearm, and every movement felt like needles pricking her skin. Just this once, she murmured, the golden light at her fingertips more blinding than ever before. If I can just cure this thing, I'll never use it again. When the orange tabby turned into a lifelike golden statue in her palm, Mia felt no fear, only a morbid excitement. Cradling the heavy golden cat, she contacted the black market buyer from before online. Upon hearing this was a living creature transformation, the buyer offered 3 times the price of ordinary gold artifacts. The deal went down in an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. As the buyer inspected the goods, he suddenly pointed at the golden cat's eyes and said, "Why are there blood vessels here?" Mia leaned in and saw dark red streaks frozen in the cat's pupils, eerily resembling blood. Her heart skipped a beat, but she forced calm into her voice. "It's a special technique." The day after getting the money, she visited a beauty salon to see if lasers could remove the golden patches. But as soon as the technician's device touched her skin, a shrill alarm sounded, the screen instantly went black, and the golden mark on her hand visibly expanded another ring. "Monster!" The beautician screamed in terror, knocking over the disinfectant as she pointed at the door, urging her to leave immediately. Mia covered her face and rushed out of the salon, wandering aimlessly through the streets until she found herself near the laboratory where Sarah was working on her environmental project. Through the window, she saw Sarah talking to a white-bearded old man, with a dark, charred stone placed on the table. Sarah recognized him as the institute's senior professor studying meteorite fragments. The old man pointed at the data on the computer screen, occasionally patting Sarah on the shoulder, his face full of approval. and in Sarah's hand was the metal identification ability upgrade card she had exchanged with her social contribution points. "Professor, look at the crystalline structure of this ore." Sarah's voice came through clearly, carrying a confident smile. Mia felt a surge of blood rush to her head. She stumbled backward, slamming into the wall, the golden patches on the back of her hands suddenly burning with intense heat. Just then, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, a clip from a surveillance video. The footage clearly showed her carrying a cardboard box out of the apartment building, accompanied by the text, "I know what you did. If you want this video to disappear, prepare 500000." The extortion came without warning. Only then did Mia remember that the residential complex had just installed high-definition surveillance cameras last week. She ran home like a madwoman, rummaging through every corner for anything that could be turned into gold. Her parents' savings passbook, the family's television, even the wall clock, all turned into gleaming gold in her palms. But these golden items couldn't fetch enough money. Black market buyers, hearing she was being watched, suddenly slashed the price to 1/10 of the market value. What made her even more desperate was that the golden patches had spread to her neck. One morning while combing her hair, she noticed in the mirror that delicate golden patterns had appeared on her collarbone, like some eerie tattoo. The system's alert became intermittent, energy corruption at 70%, immediate cessation of conversion advised. Otherwise, she didn't catch the rest because her father suddenly burst into the room, holding up a notice. The property management had posted a missing cat flyer on the bulletin board, complete with surveillance screenshots, though the face was pixelated. The clothes matched what Mia often wore. "Was it you who took that cat?" Her father's voice trembled uncontrollably. "The neighborhood group is buzzing, saying someone saw a golden light." "It wasn't me," Mia screamed, hurling the gold nugget at her father. "It was Sarah. She's the one who wants to ruin me." The argument drew the neighbors' attention when someone pointed at the golden mark on Mia's neck and asked, "What's that?" She suddenly bolted out of the house like a madwoman, her mind consumed by a single thought: she was going to find Sarah and make her suffer the same fate. Meanwhile, Sarah was in the laboratory assisting the professor with analyzing a soil sample. The system notification popped up: long-term participation in scientific research assistance has triggered the academic potential assessment, current unlockable branch, introduction to environmental engineering. Staring at the fluctuating data on the screen, she had no idea that a catastrophic disaster was closing in on her home. Mia had been driven to madness by the excruciating pain of the golden mark. The day she was chased away by the security guard from the lab entrance, she went to the hospital again. The doctor looked at the golden patterns that had already spread across her neck and said with a grave expression, "This thing is spreading toward your heart. If it continues like this." The rest of the sentence went unspoken, but the fear in his eyes made her feel even more despair than the system's warnings. She ran home and locked herself in her room. The person in the mirror was no longer recognizable. Half of her face was covered in intricate golden patterns, and even the slightest movement of her lips produced a metallic scraping sound. The system had fallen completely silent. No matter how much she called out, there was no response. "It's all Sarah's fault," she repeated to herself. "If she hadn't stolen my life, how could I have ended up like this?" Once this thought took root, it grew wildly like vines. She began rummaging through drawers and cabinets until she found a wrench in the toolbox, almost identical to the one she had used to kill Sarah in her previous life. In the evening, Sarah returned home with the recommendation letter from the professor. As soon as she stepped inside, she caught a strange smell, like the scent of red-hot metal. The living room was empty. Her parents' bedroom door was tightly shut, and only a faint light seeped out from Mia's room. "Dad, Mom," she called out twice, but there was no response. When she pushed open Mia's door, she was stunned by the sight before her. Everything in the room had turned to gold. The chairs, tables, bed, books, even the wallpaper on the walls, were all covered in a thick layer of gold foil. Mia sat on the golden floor, hammering at the ground with a wrench. With each strike, new gold spread from the cracks. "What are you doing?" Sarah rushed over to snatch the wrench but was shoved away by Mia. "Don't touch me." Mia's voice sounded like it was being squeezed out of a rusted iron pipe. "You must be so pleased, aren't you, seeing me like this? You're probably overjoyed inside." "I'm not." Sarah stared at the golden patterns on her face. "Let's go to the hospital. There must be a way." "A way?" Mia suddenly burst into laughter, the sound mixed with the clatter of metal. "The only way is for you to experience what it's like to be tangled up in this thing too." She abruptly raised a wrench and swung it at Sarah. Sarah instinctively dodged, and the wrench struck a golden wardrobe with a deafening crash. She turned to run but tripped over a golden block on the floor, her elbow slamming hard against the ground. The system notification popped up: detected severe impact, defense mechanism triggered, temporary buff pain reduction acquired, run, keep running. Mia Like a frenzied beast, swung a wrench as she chased after her. The two tussled in the living room, knocking over golden furniture that clattered loudly. Though Sarah had the enhanced endurance and strength from the system, she still hesitated to strike with full force, while Mia had completely lost her mind, aiming every blow at vital spots. Amid the struggle, Sarah crashed into their parents' bedroom door. It turned out she had locked them inside, their mouths stuffed with golden cloth. Desperately pounding on the door, "Let them go," Sarah roared, shoving Mia aside as she rushed to undo the lock, only to be grabbed from behind by Mia, who clung to her tightly. "Let's die together." Mia's voice trembled with tears, the golden patterns on her neck suddenly flaring with a blinding light. "If I can't have happiness, none of you will." She dragged Sarah toward the kitchen, where the gas pipeline was connected. Sarah struggled to turn her head and saw Mia pressing her other hand against the gas valve. Her entire arm had already turned golden. "You're insane. Everyone will die." "Good, let them die." Mia violently twisted the valve open, and the pungent smell of gas instantly filled the air. With a sinister grin, she extended her golden hand, the glow at her fingertips growing brighter. She intended to turn the gas pipe into gold, to make the entire building her burial offering. No. Sarah mustered all her strength to break free, grabbed a fruit knife from the table, and slashed Mia's arm. Golden blood gushed from the wound, and Mia screamed in pain, but her grip on the pipe didn't loosen. As the gas pipe turned into pure gold under her palm, Sarah suddenly remembered a detail from the system's metal identification ability reward. Pure gold has thermal conductivity several times higher than ordinary metals. Her heart clenched as she glanced at the still-burning embers on the stove. "Run!" She turned and dashed toward her parents' room, slamming her shoulder against the door. Just then, the golden gas pipe exploded from the intense heat. Amid the towering flames, the last thing Sarah saw was Mia standing in the center of the kitchen, the golden patterns on her body glowing molten bright in the fire. Mia opened her mouth as if to say something, but only a stream of golden flames spilled out. As for Sarah, in the split second before the blast wave hurled her away, she clung desperately to the photo album filled with old memories on the nightstand, the reward she had just earned yesterday for completing the Guardian of Family Memories task. The explosion's shockwave flung her out of the room and into the hallway. Her back burned with pain, but she shielded the album in her arms with everything she had, through the swirling smoke and dust. She thought she heard that icy system voice from her past life again, only this time, it seemed to carry a faint sigh. By the time the fire was extinguished, the sky was already beginning to lighten. Sarah sat in the ambulance, thick bandages wrapped around her back. When the firefighters carried Mia's remains from the ruins, she didn't turn to look. The body had completely transformed into a golden statue, shimmering eerily in the dawnlight, its expression frozen in a final moment of madness. Her parents had suffered minor injuries and were now sitting in another ambulance nearby. Her mother's sobs drifted through the window, like a blunt needle repeatedly pricking Sarah's heart. The more work, more rewards system flickered in her mind, displaying a new notification: significant trauma detected, initiating psychological assessment, result, recommends 72 hours of rest. She silently closed the system panel. The fire had not only burned down the house but also her last lingering attachment to the two systems. The days that followed felt like a long dream. Her parents rented a small apartment with the insurance payout, her father took a job as a security guard, and her mother set up a breakfast stall again, after being discharged from the hospital. Sarah helped at home while continuing to assist the professor with research projects at the institute. One day, while sorting through the remnants of the fire, she picked up a half-burnt golden fragment from the ashes, a remnant of the gold Mia had conjured. The system suddenly alerted: high-purity anomalous metal detected, exchangeable for 1,000 points or system unbinding privilege. Sarah froze. She stared at the unbind button on the panel, her finger hovering for a long time before finally pressing confirm. The more work, more reward system will now unbind. Confirm. Confirmed. The moment the electronic voice disappeared, Sarah didn't feel loss. Instead, she felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. The skills she had gained for tasks remained: calligraphy, metal identification, basic management, but there was no longer a mechanical voice urging her to complete missions. 6 months later, leveraging her experience at the institute, Sarah co-founded an environmental recycling company with a few classmates. They specialized in processing e-waste and industrial scrap. Using her metal identification skills to extract valuable resources from discarded materials, the early days were tough. Unable to afford a proper facility, they settled for an abandoned warehouse in the suburbs. Short on funds for equipment, Sarah led the team in manual sorting. Once, improper handling caused leaked waste to contaminate nearby land, and she worked with the team for 3 days and nights straight until environmental inspectors deemed it safe. Was it worth it? A classmate asked, exhausted, sitting on the ground. Making money with the system was so much easier. Wiping sweat from her brow, Sarah watched as her father rode up on a tricycle, delivering lunch, steam still rising from the buns her mother had made. "Look," she said with a smile, pointing, "this is what's real." The company gradually gained traction, their waste processing technology earned a patent, and they secured contracts with several major manufacturers. At an industry summit, Sarah ran into Leo, the rich kid from years ago. He raised an eyebrow in surprise as he read her business card. "You're the Sarah who turned a scrapyard into a company on the verge of going public." "Not public yet," she laughed, noticing the ordinary digital watch on his wrist, a far cry from the boy who once flaunted his family's gold mine. She later learned his family's mine had been shut down for environmental violations, and they were now pivoting to renewable energy. "I used to think gold was the most valuable thing," Leo said, clinking his glass against hers. "Now I realize the ability to work hard and do things right is worth more than any treasure." Sarah thought of Mia. She had later heard from the police that a diary was found in her sister's room. The last page read, "If I could start over, I'd want to solve a math problem properly." The handwriting was obscured by golden flecks, the original strokes barely visible, on the day the company went public. Sarah returned to the old neighborhood. My parents' breakfast stall was still there, just replaced with a clean food truck. My mother held her hand and pointed to the newly built community center nearby. "It was built with the money you donated. There's even a calligraphy class inside. I know you'd like that." She stood at the entrance of the center, watching children practice calligraphy and read books inside. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting golden rays on the floor, where dust motes danced in the light. Her phone buzzed with a text from Professor Lee at the Research Institute. "New progress on the meteorite fragment study. Come visit when you're free." Sarah smiled and replied with a simple okay. She raised her hand, noticing a faint callus on her palm, a mark left by years of gripping tools. These hands held no magic to turn stone into gold, yet they could create something far more enduring. Passing the jewelry store at the street corner, she instinctively glanced at the display window. The gold inside still glittered, but it no longer stirred anything in her heart, because she finally understood, the real alchemy was never some system. It was her mother waking at 5 in the morning to knead dough, her father patrolling late into the night, the lab lights burning till dawn, and countless ordinary moments of living earnestly, step by step. These were life's truest treasures. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In my past life, my best friend and I were abducted. While trying to escape, my best friend pushed me into the arms of the traffickers. I was brutally beaten and sold into a village to be a poor man's wife. 5 years later, I became the envy of all as a wealthy socialite, and my husband rose to become the hottest young tycoon in the capital's elite circle. Once reborn, my best friend clung desperately to the human trafficker, shouting for me to run. I couldn't help but smile. Seeing the trafficker's arms thicker than my legs, I turned and fled. In my past life, I'd been caught by traffickers and beaten black and blue. Even so, I clung desperately to the human trafficker's leg, refusing to let them leave, just to buy my best friend Mary some time to escape. She pushed me into the trafficker's arms, and I don't blame her. I know it was the instinct to survive. I just secretly hoped in my heart that she would bring someone back to save me. I repeatedly dealt with human traffickers, getting beaten black and blue each time, wishing for death rather than enduring such suffering. My body was covered in bruises, with not a single spot left unharmed. After barely managing to escape to the town, I received a call and immediately dialed my best friend, begging her to come save me. Yet all I heard was Mary's deliberately coy laughter as she lay in my fiancé's arms. "Oh dear, human traffickers are so terrifying. What can a weak woman like me do about it?" my fiancé Chandler asked hoarsely, sounding impatient. "Who's so annoying, calling at this time?" The other end of the phone emitted a series of soft moans, performing an action movie scene over the phone. My mind went blank, and I hastily hung up the phone, intending to call the police, before I could dial the number. I was caught by the human traffickers. That time, I broke a leg and nearly lost my life. Listening to Mary behind me, mimicking my past self, shouting with righteous indignation, "Rose, run, I'll hold them off." The sounds of the traffickers' punches and kicks, along with Mary's screams, echoed behind me. Without hesitation, I turned and fled. I had already learned firsthand just how ruthless these human traffickers could be. Not running would make me a fool. Behind me came the continuous screams of my best friend, and my speed kept increasing, faster and faster, as if I had grown wings. I no longer had to follow the same path as in my past life, relying on my own 2 legs. I ran out with dignity. I rushed into the high-speed train station, ignoring the strange looks from the crowd, and collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. I took out my phone, frantically bought the earliest ticket available, and the moment I stepped through the door, I truly realized I had been reborn. I took a hot shower, ordered takeout, and slept soundly and comfortably. I woke up to the sound of knocking at the door. The thin door panel was being pounded with thunderous noise. Outside, Mary's mother could be heard shouting angrily, "Rose, come out right now. Where's my daughter?" I yawned and slowly opened the door. Mary's mother frowned at my lazy appearance and pushed me aside with a forceful shove. She barged into my home without hesitation, opening every door in our house to inspect each room without my permission. "Mary, where's my Mary?" In the past life, when Mary returned home alone, my parents had also sought her out to inquire about my whereabouts. At that time, Mary not only kept silent about my abduction but also worried that I might expose her misdeeds upon my return. Lying to cover for the traffickers, she was wearing a pristine white dress, crying with tears streaming down her face like pear blossoms in the rain. I was tired and wanted to come back, but Rose insisted on meeting another online friend and refused to leave with me. I don't know where she went, I really don't. My parents couldn't believe I would secretly meet an online friend behind my fiancé's back and knelt on the ground, begging Mary to reveal my whereabouts. Mary's mother grabbed my parents' clothes and pushed them out. While pushing them, she cursed, "Raising such a shameless daughter. How dare you show your faces outside? If I were you, I'd just find a rope and hang myself." As she spoke, she took out her phone and posted pictures of my parents online. "Everyone, come and see, their own daughter ran off with another man, yet they blame our family for it. How can there be such shameless people in this world?" My parents were scolded by netizens and became trending on social media. My dark past was spread everywhere, and some netizens even used AI technology to create explicit photos and videos of me. Not only was I portrayed as a shameless slut, but many also wrote the word slut in red paint on my doorstep and plastered explicit photos of me all over the hallway. My parents not only lost their jobs but were also looked down upon, and in the end, unable to bear the humiliation, they jumped from a high building. I blinked and smiled at Mary's mother. "Mary went to meet an online friend. Didn't you know?" Mary's mother said angrily. "How could you not inform us about such a big incident?" I looked completely innocent. "Mary is almost 30 years old this year. How could I have imagined she'd meet an online friend without telling you?" Mary's mother took out her phone and dialed over 20 calls in a row, but no one answered. Her mother gradually grew angry, pointing at my nose and scolding, "If anything happens to my daughter, I'll never forgive you." For several days, Mary's mother couldn't find any trace of Mary and even reported it to the police. The police arrived quickly. I only said Mary wanted to meet an online friend and didn't come back with me. I didn't lie. The reason we were abducted by human traffickers was because Mary insisted on meeting her online friend. Mary said with a shy smile that her online friend had 8-pack abs and was the CEO of a listed company, and she wanted to meet him in person. I thought it was unreliable, so I insisted on following to keep an eye on Mary. Who would have thought that the domineering CEO, who appeared elegant online with 8-pack abs, turned out to be a sloppy human trafficker. Using his CEO identity, he deceived naive young girls. In my past life, after I was abducted, Mary took out a backup phone with chats with the trafficker, claiming it was my alternate account, using the chat records to prove I had left home willingly. The chat logs were extremely explicit, even containing some highly graphic photos. After reviewing this, the police were completely convinced by Mary's account. Now, with my guidance, the police accessed Mary's account and retrieved the other party's chat history. The content was so shocking that it left the police stunned. Among the most eye-catching was a photo of Mary in black lace lingerie, where her private parts were clearly visible. Caption: "Missed you so much, I'm going crazy." Mary's mother refused to accept this outcome, insisting that the chat records were fabricated by me. I enlarged and printed the private photos of Mary from the chat history. They were as big as movie posters. I pointed at Mary's neck in the photo and said, "Auntie, look closely." Mary's neck is covered in wrinkles, and there's a small, barely noticeable mole on her collarbone. I don't have any of that. Mary's mom was so angry she tried to snatch the poster from me. I immediately ran off with the poster, holding Mary's private photos high as I sprinted several laps around the busy marketplace. Mary's mom chased after me while loudly cursing, "You heartless wretch. After Mary considered you her best friend, this is how you treat her. May lightning strike you dead." I retorted without turning my head, "You were the one who framed me first. I was just proving my innocence. Are we not allowed to talk about what your daughter did? Can someone who pushed me into the arms of human traffickers to escape, seduced my fiancé, and drove my parents to their deaths really be called a best friend?" I feel absolutely no guilt about screwing Mary over. I was holding back my anger and ran even faster, seeing her daughter being chased and beaten. My mother couldn't stand it and stepped in front of me, If you didn't teach your own daughter properly, why blame our Rose for it? Mary was already pretty with a good figure, and I even kindly photoshopped away the flaws on her face to make her look even more beautiful. Sexy private photos of a beauty, best friends turned enemies, public catfight, every element is extremely eye-catching. The scene was so shocking and thrilling, someone quietly took out their phone and recorded it all. The giant poster in my hand became the focal point of the shoot. The internet was flooded with information about Mary. Those who had cyberbullied me in my past life all sprang into action. They began doxing Mary, even digging up photos of her secretly picking her nose back in middle school. Unlike my past self, in my previous life, apart from my fiancé, I had no other relationships. My private life was spotless. People couldn't find any scandalous photos of me, so they had to resort to photoshopping. But Mary's photos were readily available to land a sugar daddy. Mary cast a wide net to catch more fish. She flirted with many people at the same time. Her scandalous photos were everywhere, each more shocking than the last. Her ambiguous partners realized they were just one of many fish in Mary's pond and quickly backed away. Some even went live on streaming platforms, publicly sharing their interactions with Mary along with various chat logs. Mary's parents had it worse than my own parents in their past lives. Not only were they splashed with red paint and had explicit photos posted, but some even threw worn-out shoes and undergarments at their doorstep. Mary has truly gone viral. My fiancé Chandler found me, hesitating to speak. "Rose, you and Mary are best friends. How could you do this to her?" If Chandler hadn't suddenly approached me, I would have completely forgotten about this person. In my past life, my affairs had nothing to do with him. He was not involved in the trafficking. Nor did he make things difficult for my parents after what happened to me, but his infidelity is an undeniable fact. When I returned to Beijing again, he and Mary were already married with children, appearing loving and happy. I don't know when they got together, but judging by Chandler's attitude, they're probably already involved now. I glared at Chandler. "How did I treat her?" Chandler stammered. "You printed her photo and let the whole country see it," hesitating and stammering, unable to utter a complete sentence for the longest time. I really don't know what I saw in Chandler in my past life. Mary dated a bunch of rich guys, lost both her body and time, and ended up choosing such a loser. No idea what Mary sees in him. Just say you like Chandler. I'll let her be. Good men are hard to find. Trash is everywhere. I interrupted Chandler first. I printed the photos because her mother falsely claimed the person in them was me. Secondly, her parents don't even come looking for me anymore. Who the hell do you think you are? I shoved Chandler hard. Mary's body is soft, isn't it? Comfortable to sleep with. Huh? Aren't you afraid of catching something? A flicker of panic flashed through Chandler's eyes. Mary's reputation is now worse than a rat crossing the street. So how dare he associate with her? Rose, you've changed. You used to be gentle and generous, but now you've become so suspicious, and to think you were Mary's best friend. Hearing the argument between me and Chandler, many people quietly peeked out to watch the drama. Some even took out their phones to secretly film the two of us. Chandler had his back to them and didn't notice their movements, but I saw everything clearly. My eyes flickered as I spoke with sarcasm. "Calling her Mary so affectionately, yet you claim there's nothing between you. Do you know what Mary said to me during our trip?" I poked Chandler's chest hard. "It's just showing off your relationship with me." I slapped Chandler hard. "You bastard, I'm breaking up with you." Chandler was stunned by my hit. I have a gentle nature and have always been easy to bully. How come it feels like I've become a completely different person now? I actually don't have any evidence of Chandler's infidelity, but just like in my past life when Mary slandered me, I couldn't find a way to refute it. No matter what I say about Mary, she can't suddenly appear to refute me. Chandler soon became as famous as Mary in the capital city, making him known to the entire nation. Not only did he lose his job, but he was also ridiculed by many. In my past life, I returned as a wealthy noblewoman, not because I was lucky enough to marry Sam, the abducted crown prince. It was because, in order to survive and avoid being beaten, I revealed my business talent. Seeing my outstanding abilities, Sam took me around to do business. Rather than saying he took me to do business, it was more like surveillance. I worked myself to death hauling goods while he sat there smoking like a boss, not lifting a finger. Once, while delivering food to a high-end hotel, I accidentally encountered an elderly man dressed in shabby clothes who was having a heart attack. Many people passed by, but no one was willing to lend a hand. Moved by compassion, I helped the old man. To repay me, the old man came to my home with his family to express his gratitude. It was only then that I realized he was none other than Bob, the wealthiest man in the capital city. Seeing my business acumen, Bob took a liking to me. With Bob's help, I was finally able to leave Sam. When I returned home, all I saw was the indelible red paint on my doorstep and the strange looks from everyone. An aunt who had watched me grow up sighed and told me the news of my parents' death. The desire for revenge consumed my entire heart. In the past, I only wanted to go home, but now all I want is revenge. Mary, her parents, Sam, those human traffickers, and all the online bullies who drove me to despair. I will make each of them pay. I returned to Sam's side once more, frequently seeking business advice from Bob Williams, and desperately expanding my network of connections. Bob indeed had a son who went missing at a very young age. He searched for many years without success, and upon learning of my experiences, gradually came to regard me as his own daughter, fearing that his relatives might bully me after his death or even murder me for the inheritance. Bob used Sam as a shield, recognizing him as his long-lost biological son. Secretly, Bob gave all his property to me, making me his sole heir. I calculated the timing and realized it's not yet the right moment to acknowledge my relationship with Bob, based on my memories. I compiled a list of the most profitable ventures that were booming at this time in my previous life. At this point in my past life, the stock market, which had been sluggish for so long, suddenly surged. In just a few days, many people made a fortune. From memory, I invested all my money in the stock market. Within a few days, my savings multiplied more than tenfold. Then I used that money to start a business, drawing on memories from my past life. I gradually reconnected with former acquaintances and got close to them. Soon, I became a renowned rising star in the business world. My name became almost universally known throughout the capital city. As a rising business star, I easily got close to Bob. I am aware of Bob's preferences, genuinely respect him, and have been helping him search for his missing son. Bob gradually opened up to me, kept me by his side, introduced me to everyone he met, and helped create more opportunities for me. My business empire grew larger and larger. Now, Chandler and I are worlds apart. I am a rising star. He, on the other hand, is a miserable office worker with a ruined reputation. Without men holding me back, my financial luck is thriving. Men, indeed, only slow down my sword-drawing speed. My name is appearing on television more and more frequently. I'm in almost every shot with Bob, and more people are getting to know me. Many inspirational stories about me have been circulating online. No matter how many versions of my inspirational story there are, Mary's sexy photos are bound to appear in every one of them. I saw Mary again when I was delivering ginseng to Bob. I had obtained a century-old ginseng, said to strengthen the body and improve health. Unexpectedly, outside Bob's villa, I encountered Mary and my husband from a past life, Sam. Mary's figure had deteriorated severely. Her face was swollen, and her hands were covered with chilblains. He saw me and hurriedly stood up, grabbing my arm. "Rose, you came just in time. Quickly tell these security guards that my husband is the biological son of Bob, the richest man. Let us in right away." I couldn't help but look at Sam. In my past life, in order to earn money and seize any chance to escape, I could endure any hardship. Many businesses are both exhausting and laborious. I'm busy making money all day and have no time to take care of Sam. Sam is a lazy glutton who spends his days getting himself dirty in this life. However, Sam is dressed neatly and cleanly, with his hair well groomed and smooth, and even a layer of fat developing under his chin. It seems Mary has been taking good care of him. Noticing my gaze lingering on Sam, Mary quickly grabbed his arm, holding him protectively like a treasure while eyeing me warily. "Rose, he's my husband. You better not get any ideas about him." I couldn't help but laugh at Mary's antics. Am I eyeing Sam? Sam is such a lazy, worthless guy. Just standing near him makes me feel like the air is polluted. The fierce-looking security guard at the door saw me and hurriedly opened it with a smile. "You're here." I smiled and nodded, then led Mary and Sam into Bob's house. Bob looked at the two of them, somewhat bewildered. I set down the ginseng and spoke calmly. "These two claim to be your long-lost sons. I wasn't sure if their identities were genuine, but I brought them in just in case we might miss something." Bob frowned as he looked at Sam. Sam's facial features and appearance bore no resemblance to his own, nor did they resemble his deceased wife. Yet, out of longing for his son, he didn't send the boy away, decided to wait until the paternity test results come out. He instructed the butler to clean the guest room and had the two of them stay there. As soon as Mary entered the Williams family, she arrogantly ordered people in the villa to massage her shoulders, knead her legs, and go shopping at major malls. Bob didn't mind spending the money, and before confirming Sam's true identity, he told the butler to fulfill Mary's requests as much as possible. Mary lifted her head and spoke arrogantly. "Rose, why are you working so hard, instead of going out alone to do business and socialize with older men? You should learn from me and marry a promising man early." She dismissed my success as a fluke and attributed my efforts to selling my looks. The older man Bob couldn't help but frown on the side. I laughed. "I don't have a figure and looks as good as yours, nor do I have your kind of luck." Mary must have dated at least dozens, if not 100 men, and yet, among all those men, not a single decent one could be found. It could be considered good luck in another sense. Bob couldn't help but remind from the side, Rose is not a servant of the Williams family, nor is she an employee of the Williams family. Mary, decked out in designer brands, said in a strange tone, so what? I just want her to keep me company. She clung to Sam's arm, winking at me repeatedly. Taking care of me is way better than serving those old men. If I'm in a good mood, I might even throw you a couple of designer bags. After enduring such a hard life in the mountains for so long. It still didn't make Mary any smarter. Doesn't she understand my current status? All I need to do is casually open my mouth, or even just give a look, and someone would willingly deliver a bag right to me. How can anyone be as foolish as her? The heavens gave her such a great opportunity to be reborn. Instead of focusing on making money, she's obsessed with finding a good man to marry. I couldn't help but laugh. Then thank you, Mary. Mary affectionately linked arms with me. Then whispered coldly in my ear, I know everything you've done before. Now my husband is the crown prince of the capital's elite circle, and I'm the daughter-in-law of the richest family in the city. I will absolutely never let you off. I listened to her words, my body trembling uncontrollably. She thought I was afraid and said triumphantly, if you know what's good for you, spit out all the benefits you got from the old man. Start a live broadcast. And kneel on the ground to apologize to me in front of the whole nation. My body shook even more violently. I never realized in my past life that Mary was such a funny girl. After laughing for a long time, I finally straightened up. Mary, are you sure the man beside you is the son of the richest man? Looking at Mary's slightly bulging belly, I smiled at her. Be careful not to lose the lady and the dowry. Mary didn't listen to my words, let go of my hand, and threw herself into Sam's arms. Coquettishly acting spoiled with him. Back in the mountain valley, Sam thought Mary was the most beautiful and sexiest woman he had ever seen. Mary treated him so well that he wished he could hold her in the palm of his hand. Now that he knew his true identity and had come across Mary's past scandals online, he increasingly felt that Mary was unworthy of him. After all, he was now the high and mighty crown prince of the capital's elite circle. What kind of woman couldn't he have? How could he possibly settle for someone like Mary, a fallen woman past her prime? The thought that Mary had been with so many men before she met him, even being trafficked, was just to meet an online friend. He quietly moved Mary's hand away and created distance between them. His gaze fell on me, sticky and lingering, but his gaze quickly shifted away. I'm not particularly good looking, just average in appearance. In this upscale mall, any salesgirl at the counters is prettier than me and has a better figure. Sam, who had spent years in the village, had never seen so many beautiful women before and couldn't take his eyes off them. Several times he couldn't even walk properly, drooling at the salesgirl. Mary, standing nearby, was so angry she couldn't help pinching his arm. Watching from the side, I wasn't surprised by Sam's behavior. It was the same in our previous life. Sam knew full well he wasn't Bob's biological son. Yet he still paraded around as the crown prince of the Beijing elite circle, indulging in all sorts of debauchery. I had no emotional attachment to Sam, so naturally, I didn't care how many women he had around him, but Mary clearly wasn't as magnanimous as I was. Before we even left the mall, she had pinched Sam's arm until it swelled. The test results came out quickly. The results from over a dozen laboratories were completely consistent. Bob placed the paternity test report in front of Mary and Sam. He let out a long sigh. The results are in. Sam is not my child, although Sam didn't look like a good person at all, but Bob still secretly hoped that the man before him might be his biological son. Unfortunately, the result disappointed him once again. Mary stood there in a daze, then suddenly rushed toward the pile of paternity test reports. No way. This can't be. She frantically flipped through the paternity test reports in front of her, examining one after another. With reddened eyes, she lunged at me. It's you. You're behind this, aren't you? You've been reborn too, and you resent me for not saving you in our past life. That's why you're doing this to me. I've already paid the price in my past life. Why are you still doing this in this life? What exactly have I done to wrong you? I sighed and pulled her arms away. I know you can't accept this fact. But this matter really has nothing to do with me. Even if I had the greatest ability, I couldn't have coordinated with over a dozen labs in such a short time. Bob had grown accustomed to such farces. In the over 20 years since his son went missing, many had brought children to impersonate his son. When their lies were exposed, each one of them reacted with the same hysteria. He was tired of this charade. Enough. He tapped the ground heavily with his cane. Although Sam is not my son, I am grateful that he came here. I won't pursue the expenses you incurred during this time. Consider it my gift to you. Now leave. Several bodyguards rushed out and dragged the two away. Mary kept shouting, impossible, impossible. She even squatted outside and blocked my car. She stood in front of my car like a madwoman, questioning me. Please, for the sake of our past friendship, tell me how you managed to get Sam back into the Williams family. She was convinced that I was the one causing trouble. I sighed just once and said sympathetically, "I don't understand a word you're saying. There's no such thing as past lives or reincarnation in this world, and the idea of rebirth is pure nonsense. If you have time, you should go get your head checked." Mary stood there dumbfounded. If there were no past or future lives, then what was the purpose of everything she was doing now? No, Rose must not have memories of her past life. Which is why she thinks the connection between past and present lives is fake. If there really was no past life, why would she know about Sam's existence? To prove that Sam is the son of the wealthiest man, she tried several times to sneak into Bob's house to steal his hair or tissues. Every time she would get caught by the bodyguards. At first, Bob could still understand her. Later, Bob got angry and called the police. Mary's mother received the news and bailed her out. Seeing her daughter knocked up by some poor boy and ending up in jail, Mary's mother couldn't help but explode in rage. "I've fed and clothed you all these years, and this is the trash you end up with. If I'd known you'd turn out so useless, I should have strangled you at birth." She didn't just curse Mary, she dragged Sam into her tirade too. The insults were as vile as they come. Although Sam is lazy and gluttonous, he shares a common flaw with many men. He's obsessed with saving face. Hearing Mrs. Mary's scolding, his face darkened as he pointed at Mary and cursed, "What's so great about a worn-out shoe? If you look down on me, I look down on you even more." With that, Sam tried to tear off the designer clothes Mary was wearing and snatch the luxury handbag from her. While shopping with Mary, he saw the prices of these clothes. A single garment could cost half a lifetime's income for an ordinary person. With these things, he could easily buy a wife more obedient and beautiful than Mary. Mary resisted fiercely, but she and her mother were both women, and together they couldn't match Sam's strength. Not only did they fail to overpower Sam, but they also had all their cash and valuables taken from them. Mary was stripped down to her underwear. If Sam hadn't been worried that the underwear Mary had worn wouldn't sell, she might not even have that left by now. As camera flashes went off, Mary found herself trending on social media once again. Her mother cursed and stood up to call the police, but Mary stopped her. "No, we can't call the police. He's the only son of the wealthiest family in the capital. It must be that Rose holding a grudge and tampering with things. Otherwise, I'd be a wealthy lady by now." Glancing at the phones around her, she clenched her teeth. She decided to take the risk and go live. "Before starting the broadcast, she gave me a call. As long as you obediently tell me the way to bring Sam back into the wealthy family, I can let you go. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude, psycho." I cursed into the phone and quickly hung up. I glanced at the young and handsome officer beside me and gave him a smile. "Officer Lucas, based on my understanding of Sam, he will definitely go find those human traffickers to make another deal." Lucas looked at Sam's image on the surveillance screen and gave a slight nod. "That group of human traffickers is extremely cunning. They've detected our setup several times. With Miss Jane's help, I believe we can definitely apprehend this criminal gang." While Mary was lost in her dream of becoming a wealthy wife, meekly flattering men all these years, I was running my business while researching facial recognition and tracking technology. Not only is it highly accurate, but it can also display the target's identity information, predict their movements, track their past whereabouts, and even reconstruct their appearance from childhood. With the support of my technology, the police's tracking capabilities have significantly improved. Following Sam, we quickly located the group of human traffickers. However, we didn't arrest them immediately. Instead, we marked them and tracked their movements, gradually apprehending many of the traffickers. Sam was also arrested for robbery. A large number of human traffickers were arrested, and based on their trading information, we rescued thousands of missing individuals. Among them were the elderly and children, some of whom still had gratitude and hope for life in their eyes when they were rescued. Some had long become numb, even developing a dependence on the buyers who purchased them, unwilling to return home. Those who were rescued wept together, while those unwilling to go home left their families in tears as well. Listening to the cries around me, I couldn't help but feel my eyes welling up with tears. In my previous life, even until the moment I died, I never got to see my parents again. Filled with resentment, I kowtowed to Bob and inherited his family's business. I hired a cyber hacker to expose all the things Mary had done, including how she betrayed me and how she framed me. Netizens became aware of Mary's malicious intentions and quickly turned their criticism toward her, condemning Mary. Mary's son was cyberbullied to the point of dropping out of school, constantly calling Mary vicious and even physically assaulting her. Chandler also lost his job and spent his days drinking at home. Mary is often beaten by both the father and son. Mary's parents are also subjected to gossip because of her, to the point where they dare not even leave the house. I then compiled a list of those who had previously cyberbullied my parents and shared their names across various platforms. Their usernames and real information were all exposed by me. I hired the best legal team, not only to make them pay compensation but also to ruin their reputation, turning them into what everyone saw as murderers. After handling these matters, I spent a fortune and spared no expense to track down the human traffickers who had harmed me in the first place. I posted the traffickers' information online, and many victims' families came forward, beating the traffickers to death. Because they had killed someone, they were also arrested by the police. As for Sam, I poisoned his food and killed him. In my past life, I did many reckless and crazy things for revenge. My murder of Sam was exposed, and I was arrested by Lucas. Lucas felt great sympathy for me, often visiting me in prison and bringing me daily necessities. From Lucas, I learned that because of my imprisonment, Bob's enterprise was left without a leader and was gradually eroded by competitors. Not only was Bob's business taken over, but the employees also lost their jobs one after another, unable to repay their loans. Some even lost their lives out of despair. It was at that moment I felt regret. I clearly had many ways to seek revenge, yet I chose the most radical one. The bloodshed caused by me alone has made many suffer the consequences. I am truly happy to be reborn. Not only did I get to see my parents again, it can also atone for the sins committed in past lives. The tracking system I developed not only significantly increased the crime-solving rate but also helped locate many missing children. I donated the research and development system to the country free of charge. I also established a foundation dedicated to helping victims of human trafficking, the abducted individuals, after enduring prolonged abuse, have developed psychological issues in many cases. My foundation not only assists them in treating their mental health conditions but also helps them reintegrate into society and acquire new skills. Lucas often comes to help me, and he deeply admires my ability to accomplish so much. I smiled as I looked at Lucas. Officer Lucas, actually, I've always wanted to take you to a place. Lucas trusted me completely and followed me without even asking where we were going. I led Lucas to Bob's house and knocked on the door. The moment Bob saw Lucas, he froze in place. Without needing a paternity test, he recognized at a glance that the person before him was his own son. Lucas and Bob looked so alike, perhaps because Lucas's mother was a beauty, making Lucas even more handsome than Bob. In my past life, the moment Lucas caught me, I recognized him, but by then, Bob had already died, and I had become a criminal. Recognizing Lucas would only subject him to discrimination while in prison. I contacted a lawyer to arrange for all the inheritance to be left to Lucas. I feel deeply ashamed. Bob entrusted me with a business empire, yet all I can return to Lucas is a shattered, crumbling enterprise. The lawyer reminded me that Lucas is just an ordinary police officer with no business experience. If the company goes bankrupt, the resulting debt would be enough to crush him. So I dismissed the thought of leaving my assets to Lucas and broke down in tears. Bob has helped me so much, yet I can leave nothing for his son. Fortunately, I've been reborn, and there's still a chance to make amends. Now Bob is in robust health, and the company is thriving under my assistance. Lucas will surely inherit the business successfully. Surprisingly, Lucas didn't choose to return and inherit the family business. Instead, he hired me as a professional manager to take over the family on his behalf. He still wore the same unchanged police uniform and continued doing his own work. He never became arrogant or conceited because of inheriting the family business, remaining a kind and upright person. Mary kept saying she wanted revenge on me, which made Lucas extremely nervous. He picked me up and dropped me off every day and even hired several bodyguards for me. We all thought Mary's revenge would be suddenly jumping out to stab me or sending an assassin to kill me. Never did we imagine that her so-called revenge meant going live to expose my past life's crimes. She shouted excitedly to the livestream audience, "Folks, do you see how vicious she is? In her past life, ruining me wasn't enough. Now in this life she's deliberately taking revenge, preventing me from becoming a wealthy wife." I watched as she shouted family members while counting down 3, 2, 1, links up. Lucas and I exchanged glances, suddenly realizing that compared to Mary, our overly cautious demeanor made us look like the fools. I quietly reported her account, and due to Mary's notorious reputation, it was permanently banned. Later, I heard she kept rambling about past lives and future destinies, claiming she was about to become a wealthy wife. Clinging to her increasingly round belly, she was sent to a mental hospital by her mother. I went to see her once. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes were vacant, and she kept hugging a pillow, giggling foolishly. The doctor said that after her daughter was born, she kept insisting on taking the baby to meet her grandfather. Then, in a moment of carelessness, she lost her grip, and the child fell to its death. She was always willing to admit it, hugging a pillow and calling it baby. When she saw me, she could no longer recognize me, mistaking me for a nanny. She kept calling her husband the crown prince of the Beijing elite circle and demanded I cook her a king crab. When I left the mental hospital, the sky seemed bleak and gloomy. If I hadn't been captured by Lucas in my past life, perhaps even after achieving my revenge, I would have gone mad from losing my purpose, marry at least his family to visit her, while I'll just die alone in the mental hospital. A thick coat suddenly fell from the sky and draped over me. I looked up and saw Lucas's refined, handsome face. He spoke calmly. Actually, I've been having this dream lately where you're not the respected Mr. Zhang everyone admires, but just a pitiful yet despicable murderer. My heart felt as if it were being tightly gripped by something, and I looked at him in shock. Since Lucas knows about the events of our past lives, how does he view me now? Lucas smiled at me. You look so small and pitiful in that oversized prison uniform. Even though I know you're a prisoner, I can't help but keep my eyes on you, digging into your past, hating myself for not finding you sooner. Under the sunlight, he stood with his hands in his pockets, smiling lazily. So in this life, I found you early, just in time to see you abandon your companions and flee, and even witnessed you cursing your fiancé and causing a scene at the police station. Suddenly, I felt a bit shy. He saw every single one of my crazy outbursts. Do you think I looked ugly like that? He chuckled softly and shook his head. No, I just thought your feisty side was so adorable it made me want to kiss you. I froze, held tightly in his embrace. In this life, I don't have to arrest you with my own hands, nor spend the rest of my days guarding your tombstone. Rose, I love you. The two of us stood on the bustling street, weeping uncontrollably. Rebirth is truly wonderful. It can make up for all my mistakes and allow me to live happily with the one I love. That's all the story. What do you think of this story? Share with me in the comments section. What would you do if you were in this situation? Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.